At least 2 COVID vaccines expected to receive federal approval within weeks. Hopes of finally beating the coronavirus are looking up. They are, but people have to take the shot for it to be effective. Paul Murphy reports on whether your employer can require you to be vaccinated.
The first COVID vaccine in the U.S. could be authorized for emergency use as early as this week. Throughout the pandemic, it has been a struggle to get some people to wear a mask, even if it meant protecting themselves and others from being infected by the coronavirus. Convincing them and others to take the vaccine may also be difficult.
Most people will eventually get vaccinated. There's always going to be a group that will not. And for those people, there may be mandates that need to happen.
So can your employer require you to get a COVID shot? Loyola Law Professor Dane Cialino says in Louisiana, the answer is yes.
By and large, most people are at-will employees in Louisiana, and the request, in light of all the science, is a reasonable one. So most employees are either going to have to do it or suffer the consequences.
Professor Cialino says while COVID vaccines can be mandatory, there are exceptions under certain circumstances.
Some exceptions are going to be mandated by federal law. If an employee has a disability or a sincere religious belief, then they would be protected under certain federal laws.
According to a recent survey by the Pew Research Center, about 60% of Americans say they would definitely or probably get a vaccine for the coronavirus. But about 4 in 10 said they definitely or probably would not get a coronavirus vaccine. Tulane epidemiologist Patricia Kissinger says if some people choose not to get a shot, that's okay.
If we can get 60 to 70% of the population vaccinated, we should get close to herd immunity.
Once herd immunity is achieved, a virus can't spread because it keeps encountering people who are protected against infection. Paul Murphy, Eyewitness News.
Health experts say vaccine mandates are expected in some professions, such as healthcare and public education, but they predict most other employers are more likely to simply encourage their workers to get immunized rather than issue a company-wide mandate.